Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a problem we did for the classwork today. And before we do that, let's start with a joke. What did the 0 say to the 8? Any takers? Any guesses? What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt! So funny. All right. Well, here's the problem. So Tracy was comparing the following lengths. Order the lengths from shortest to longest. So we have two that are in fraction form. We have two that are in decimals. I personally think it's much easier to order decimals from least to greatest than it is to order fractions. What I do know right off the bat is that 3 and 55 hundredths is less than 3 and 7 tenths. We can, if you're not convinced on this, we can write 7 tenths as 70 hundredths, and then see, yeah, 3 and 55 hundredths is less than 3 and 70 hundredths. So I know that. That 3 and 7 tenths feet are longer than 3 and 55 hundredths of a foot. And then I look here and I say, okay, well, I'm not sure, but I can say, okay, well, this is 5/8 and this is 7/16. 5/8 can be turned into 10/16. So I know that 5/8 of a foot, 3 and 5/8 is greater than 3 and 7/16. What I also notice, and this is actually going to save me a lot of time, is that 3 and 5/8 is more than 3.5 feet. So 3.5 feet would be 3 and 4/8. So we have 3 and 8. We have a fraction that's greater than 3.5. This is greater than 3.5 feet, and this is greater than 3.5 feet. When I look here at this fraction, I notice that 3 and 7/16, well, I know that 3 and 8/16 would be 3.5 feet. So they're all pretty close to 3.5 feet. This is the only fraction, though, that is less than 3.5 feet. It's the only fraction. So if I'm ordering them from least to greatest, which I am, I'm going to put 3 and 7/16 feet as the least. It's the shortest. It's the only one that's under 3.5 feet. So now the question is just, well, where does 3 and 5/8 go between these two? What I'm going to choose to do is I'm going to choose to convert this fraction into a decimal. I know that 3 feet is going to just stay as 3 point something, so 3 feet and something else. Let's find out what 5/8 is. So let's do that. Let's do that work. Let's do it over here. Let's turn 5/8. So how do I convert 5/8 into a decimal? Well, you can do that through division. So 5/8 could be written as 5 divided by 8. And if we do that, we have 5 being divided by 8. Out of 5, I cannot make a group of 8, so that's 0. Put a decimal and a 0, bring the decimal up. Now 8 goes into 50 6 times. 8 times 60 is 48. That's a remainder of 2. Have a remainder, so let's bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20. 8 goes into 22 times. 2 times 16 is 2 times 8 is 16. That's a remainder of 4. Still have a remainder, so let's continue the division problem. 8 goes into 45 times. So 5/8 is equivalent to 625 thousandths. So that 5/8 is equivalent to 625 thousandths. So let's take that, and I know that 3 and 5/8 is equivalent to 3 and 625 thousandths. Well, all right then. So we know that 7 and 7/16 of a feet is the least. After that, 3 and 6 tenths is larger than 3 and 5 tenths. So the next would be 3 and 55 hundredths of a foot. Then we're comparing 3 and 6 tenths with 3 and 7 tenths. And I know that 625 thousandths of a foot is going to be less than 3.7 feet. Just squeeze it in there. All right, there you go. So I knew that this was the only fraction that was less than 3.5, and then it just became just ordering those 3. All right, hope you enjoyed it. See you guys tomorrow.